the News Channel 5 network, this is Open Line.
Good evening, this is Open Line. Thank you guys so much for joining us here tonight. The topic we will be discussing is consolidation, is a proposed charter in Montgomery County. And as everybody knows, early voting did start today. I'm joined here with people who are voting for and against consolidation. Bob, can you just tell me a little bit about your group and about consolidation?
I actually served on the consolidation committee in Montgomery County. The county mayor appointed me. And so I went through the entire process, 18 months or so of writing a charter. And so I've been down in the weeds with the charter. Now I'm coming back out and I'm like, okay, what's good about it and how can we get this thing passed?
And Hank, if you don't mind introducing yourself and your group.
Sure, Hank Koebler, and I'm with the Committee to Oppose Consolidation. We're kind of a grassroots group of farmers and people that live around the county. And we came together very, very late into this process because we feel there's just a lot of things in the charter that are not necessarily good for the county or that we already have or we could easily do without consolidation. And one of the things that concerns us the most is the potential cost of this consolidation.
I feel like the big hot button issue from doing my story 2 days ago was the merging between the Sheriff's Department and the Clarksville Police Department. Bob, let's start with you, and what is your input on that?
As a commission member, we had both the county sheriff and the Clarksville police chief come in 2 or 3 times, and they made presentations. It was very interesting because to me, as a citizen, it was very interesting to me that each of them had distinct positive characteristics that could serve the community in the long term. And it also, each were basically selling their departments to us. And so I think we got good information from that process.
And Hank, obviously you don't want this merge to happen. Why?
Well, for one thing, I think both departments, which both are excellent departments, and I know people in both departments, I think they have slightly different missions, slightly different functions, and I think if you try to combine them, you'll dilute those functions and take away one from the other. And the other big problem with it is cost, the actual cost of merging the two departments. Just for one example, communications alone, depending upon what system they use, could be anywhere from a low of maybe about $30 million up to about 70, and that's my area of expertise where I earn my living. And I've done this with other cities and other jurisdictions and other departments that want to upgrade their equipment, and I know what the costs are, and that's something that is a big problem for us, is that potential cost. How do we pay for it? And the only solution that I really see is increasing taxes.
On that note, Bob, I want to give you the chance to respond. Obviously, money has been a big issue here. People are wondering, will our taxes go up if Montgomery County and Clarksville proper consolidate?
I guess let me first respond to Hank's assertion about the cost. When we interviewed, and I would call it, I think they actually testified to us as a commission. The sheriff represented that it could cost up to $35 million to rework his system to cover the city because they're on a different megahertz system. The sheriff testified, on the other hand, that he believed their communication system could be employed very inexpensively by simply equipping each county patrolman with their portable systems, which cost about $3,500 per patrolman. The math is 100 patrolmen times $3,500 is $350,000. The bottom line of all of that is the county commission would never, ever agree to expend $35 to $70 million for a new communication system. It's just not going to happen. It would be incumbent upon the chief of police, because there will still be a chief of police. He will just work underneath the sheriff, who is the elected chief law enforcement officer of the community. It would be incumbent upon those two to work together and come up with a plan that was the most efficient and the most cost effective for the community. Because again, the county commission would never, ever approve that type of expenditure.
Hank, do you have anything to add, or should we go to a caller?
Well, I would just add that, you know, we already have under TCA the sheriff as the chief law enforcement officer in the county. So does the charter really give us anything by stating that he would be the chief law enforcement officer?
All right, I think Brian's on line 1. This is my first time, so hopefully I did that right. Hey Brian, can you hear us?
Oh yeah, I can hear you guys just fine. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Do you have a question for us?
Oh yeah, well, I just want to say I think that Montgomery County is very large. If I'm not mistaken, because I grew up in Rutherford County and I spent some time there. I didn't go to MTSU, but if I'm not mistaken, Montgomery County is like larger than I think 2 or 3 United States states, and it's the largest county in the state of Tennessee. If I'm not incorrect, it's a huge, huge geographic county. I think it's about 100 by 130 miles, isn't it? It's bigger than Rhode Island and Delaware. You know, am I not correct?
Well, do you have a question for us on how size?
Oh yeah, I want to say I think Montgomery County, to go to county administration like we did in Davis County, Nashville, really difficult because Clarksville is full of soldiers and the rest of the county is really rural. That's why I was saying it's a large, large county. Besides Rutherford County, I can't think of a bigger county. It's a big, big. I mean, with like what I'm saying is the size of the county. I may not be getting my point across, I guess.
So I guess he's wondering, does the size of the county affect consolidation? Will people in the county be receiving less services than people in the city of Clarksville?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Correct. Yes, yes.
Well, we'll let both of you guys respond to that.
Okay. The charter as written, from the way I understand it, there will be an urban services district and a general services district. The urban services district, which would be the current city, would continue to have the city amenities, benefits, services. The general services district, of course, would not. That would be the rural area. And the tax structure, instead of somebody in the city paying taxes to 2 governments, they would pay a tax to 1 government, but they would still be paying a higher tax than the people in the general services area because they're receiving more. So the actual amount of taxes aren't going to be lower for the people in the city. They will be the same. They just get 1 tax bill. That would be the way I understand it under the charter.
So Bob, obviously lots of people wondering if I live on the outskirts, or am I going to have to pay for a fire department to be on my edge of the county? Will that increase my taxes? What do you want to say to Brian, our caller?
Well, I'm actually one of those people. I live in the county and I live on the outskirts of the city limits. And the way that would work is an area, and I live in an area called Sango, and just say for instance, my area wanted city fire service. We could petition the county commission for city fire service, and then there would be a referendum, and 60% of the affected area, we'll just call it Sango, would have to vote to receive and pay for that service. It also says in the charter that the government can't charge us for that service until we actually receive it. And so we would know up front what that service would cost, and then we could make an informed decision about do we want fire service in Sango or do we not?
So it would eventually be up to the voters. They could vote
That's correct.
For having that fire service.
And that's the only way under the charter that service could be extended, or additional services could be specifically extended to an area or all the areas. The citizens would have to vote to receive and pay for those services.
So for volunteer firefighters, which I know as a reporter, because there's so many times when we're going out to cover a fire and it's actually just volunteers who are there, would that dissolve under consolidation?
No, it wouldn't. If the community didn't, if the rural community didn't have, we'll call it city fire service, the volunteer fire service would continue.
We have another caller. We're going to grab Steve here. Hey, Steve, can you hear me?
Yes.
What's your question?
Yes. I wanted to ask Mr. Yates about the Charter Commission meeting on 11/21/2017, where they put a plan together that said they were going to pit city people against county people in order to solve their problems, they're going to pass consolidation. So Mr. Yates, the Charter Commission, and this Vote Yes PAC, they want to divide us.
I don't think that's accurate. I think what you read was a proposed strategy. We went to several different marketing firms, and several different marketing firms proposed strategy, and we didn't go with that strategy.
Well,
and let me ask you a question, Steve. Do you own Steve, can I ask you a question? Steve, may I ask you a question?
All right.
Do you own property in Montgomery County?
Yes, I do.
You do?
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Did you want to respond to Steve at all before we hang up?
Yes, actually, that strategy was at that meeting with Red Ivory Strategies, who is carrying out your campaign of flyers and mailers.
That's correct. But we didn't adopt that specific strategy.
Let me finish. And yes, you are carrying out that strategy, and your flyers that everybody's been getting show that you're carrying out that strategy, trying to pit county versus city, neighbor versus neighbor, and trying to twist and make things that aren't so. And you're carrying out that strategy.
I don't agree with that assertion.
Okay.
All right, thanks so much, Steve. We're going to end that call, and it looks like we have Debbie on line 2. Hey, Debbie, can you hear us?
Hey, Debbie, can you hear us? Hey, Debbie, can you hear us?
Debbie? Looks like, can you turn your TV down? Just put the volume down. I think we're getting a little bit of an echo.
We're getting an echo.
All right. Sorry, Debbie. We're going to have Debbie call back in because obviously it feels a little bit weird to hear ourselves. But if Debbie just calls back in, or if you want to call and you just go down on the volume on your TV, everything should sound great. All right. We're going to have more on this discussion coming up after this commercial break.